Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I have a really cute Hello Kitty Valentine's Day design. I will definitely tell you more about the design later on, like once we get to the nail art portion, but for now, we're just gonna talk about what I'm doing right here. So I'm going in with my, I believe these are double XL tips from Unagella. I absolutely love these. The reason why I love these so much, aside from them being so sturdy, because I do say that in a lot of my videos, but the other reason that I love them so much is because if I were to cut the size down, it doesn't give me that like weird, like they don't cave in towards the tip. I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you go from a really long nail tip and then you try to cut it, the free edge will sort of like cave downward and give you more of a coffin shape, which is super annoying. So these tips in particular do not give me that problem at all. So sometimes honestly I'll just skip getting the really short ones and I'll just get the long ones. I know that they can be a little bit, like they're probably like $2 or $3 more honestly, but to me it's worth it because the short ones do cave in a little bit, but the long ones are perfect. They don't give me that problem at all. So for now, I'll just let you finish watching my Gel-X application and then I'll come back. Now, I did make a silly mistake and put this tip on crooked, and I thought it was hilarious that I tried to fix it. Look, I can't believe I did that. So I did take that one off and put on a completely new tip, and now she looks so much better. Once I got all of my tips on, it was time to seal in that cuticle. So whenever I'm using my Gel-X tips, I love to use this gold bit by Melody Susie. I usually gravitate towards this bit a lot whenever I'm doing my Gel-X tips because the tip of the barrel is extra fine. So I find that really helpful whenever I need to like cut through all of that extra product. And then after this, what I like to do just to get a little bit closer to that nail plate, since I'm just gonna put gel polish right on top of this, is I'll go in with my mini sanding band in a 180 grit. I do want to remind you guys that whenever you are doing this, you want to hold the barrel as parallel to your natural nail plate as possible. That way you're not giving yourself any rings of fire or literally cutting yourself. You can cut yourself, so please be careful. After this though, what I like to do is take a brush with some acetone and just go over where the tip and my natural nail plate meet, just to make the blend even more seamless, and it's not going to show whenever you put the gel polish on top. Now we can get into all of the fun nail art. So the first thing I did was take the Apres gel polish. This is Fairy Wings. It was one of my first ever like nude gel polishes that I bought from them. And every time I use it again, I'm like, yes, this is it. This is such a beautiful sheer. Well, I say sheer because you do have to use at least 2 or 3 coats to get a nice coverage, but you can absolutely use it as a sheer gel polish. And it's just gorgeous. So I go in with 3 coats of this on my pinky and my index finger. For this one, I go in with 2 shades of white. Whatever gel polish you got is perfectly fine. And you'll see why later on I use a white base instead of a pink base. And then for the remaining fingers, which would be my thumb and my ring finger, I go in with a Apres gel polish again, but this time the shade is called Pink About It. It's a very hot pink. And I do 2 coats of the white and 2 coats of Pink About It. Next, I went ahead and applied matte top coat to all of the nails. That way I can start the like tiny little details. So right here, what I'm doing is I took white liner gel from Nails by Dev. I'll leave the link down in the description below because I absolutely love this liner gel. And I'm only doing the outline because what I'm going to end up doing after this is an ombre from the base of that line upward to my cuticle. And once I start like the actual ombre, you'll see what I'm talking about. So here are the ombre gels that I'm talking about. And honestly, they call them ombre gels, but guys, it's just liner gel. If you have any type of liner gel, you can use this method with a sponge. It doesn't have to be this brand. I know there's a lot of different brands out there that advertise as ombre gel, but whatever colored liner gel you got, you can use this method. So what I like to do is take a little bit and then dab it on my palette a little bit just to soak the color throughout the sponge evenly. And then you want to start where you want your deepest and richest color to be, which for me is right there on that French line, and then I work it upward. If you notice that your like ombre blend is a little bit too harsh and not as flawless as you would want it to be, what you want to do is take a clean sponge and just start patting away right in that area, and it'll sort of make it more seamless for you and clean up the harsh line. Now I do use this method as well on the hot pink nails. The problem is that I go in with white gel polish, and because white polish is so not polish, I'm sorry. I go in with white liner gel, but because liner gel in white is like so bright against a dark color, honestly, it took so long for it to go through. So I don't even show you that portion. Just know that I had to do that at least 5 times. So I did it once, fully cured it, and kept going for at least 5 different layers. The last thing that I want to mention about this method and why I chose to do it this way instead of doing the white French first is because I didn't want to mess up that white polish. I would have had to completely like matte top coat it all over again. So I just did it this way, and then what I do is I take some acetone on a brush and just clean right below that French line, so that way when I go to apply my white polish on it, it doesn't have this like different shade right around that area. It is as white as can be without that pink ruining the color. What I'm trying to do right here is create a checkered background. So that is why I went in with a white base instead of the pink, because it would have, like, I don't know if you've ever tried this before, but if you were to put a white shade on top of a dark shade, the white is just a little bit off and it's not as white as it can be. So I always like to start with the white first, so it keeps it nice and clean. And then I go over with that Pink About It shade from a Prey, and I just start creating these boxes. Once I'm done with these boxes, I go in and start shading them in to create that checkered look. I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, kind of a side topic, but if you guys are, watching this long, which I hope you are, and I hope you're enjoying this video, I want to mention that I do have a link to my TikTok down below. And I'm just bringing that up because sometimes I do post little snippets of what's to come there first. So definitely check that out if you're interested. I'll post like a little mini tutorial and like for 60 seconds, and then I'll post just like the final design, so you guys can kind of check that out before the full tutorial launches on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested and want to show a little support, go ahead and follow me there. Right here, all I'm doing is taking that same pink by Prey, and I'm just moving that same design from my middle finger over to my pinky, except for the pinky, I'm just gonna do it over the white part of the French. Now let's talk about the 3D art. What I'm using right here is Savalan's 3D nail art gel. I absolutely love these. However, there are some pros and cons to this gel. So one of the things I love is the colors. I think the colors are so vibrant. It also comes with a nude shade in case you want to do like 3D characters, so you don't have to necessarily paint over the 3D gel because it already comes with a nude shade for skin tones. But I think it comes, if I'm not mistaken, with at least 12 different colors, and they are incredibly bold and vibrant. So that's one thing that I love about it. However, let me tell you what I don't like about it, which is one like simple thing, and you can totally just like live with it. It's not that big of a deal. What it is that the in order for the gel to work or to stick necessarily to the nail, I have to really take a brush and acetone and like soak it in there. It's almost like melting the edges of the gel into the nail. The reason that is because the texture of this gel is more like a dry Play-Doh. So it's not like when you use, how do I say it? It doesn't have the consistency of a normal sculpting gel. It has this consistency of that Play-Doh. So if you don't really like put some acetone in there or some nail polish remover in there to sort of mold it together, as soon as you put it on the nail, it just flops right off. So that's the downside to this. However, I can live with it. That's really not that big of a deal to me. I'll just do exactly that. I always take acetone on a brush. That's what you see me doing right here. And I start patting away at the 3D gel just to get it like really on there. So that way, as I'm molding and shaping it, it's not gonna flick off. However, I will say that with smaller pieces, like if you're gonna do really tiny 3D art, I don't recommend using this. I would just use something like McCart's 3D nail glue and use that for your tiny little details, and then use gel polish to paint over it for color, because this doesn't work as well. And I actually put in a clip of what happens if you are a little bit too rough when you're trying to sculpt tiny little details. So right here, what I did was I took that red. As you can see, it is so red. Like the color is just wow in your face red. And I'm taking some acetone on a brush or a silicone tool. I go back and forth between the two, and I just start molding and shaping it the way that I want it to look. So this is the part right here that I was talking about where it's a tiny little piece of gel, and I actually was a little too rough and it flicked right off the screen. Watch. So that's what I mean. If you're gonna be just a little bit too rough, or you don't really make sure that it's attached to the nail, little things like that will happen. In comparison to McCart's 3D nail glue, it's so sticky that that just doesn't happen. So, you know, you just gotta pick and choose your battles with this one. So what I ended up creating right here was Hello Kitty's little bow, and I thought the placement up in the corner was so cute. Now for this nail, I did the same bow, but I thought it would look better down right at that French line instead of at the top, just to give it something a little bit different. After this, it was time to actually start my Hello Kitty. So I took some white 3D gel from the same packet of Savaland, and I just kind of made an oval shape for her head. And then right before I cured it, I attached her ears at the top. I will say, I don't think I mentioned this before. One of the other things when it comes to this gel in particular, for the bright like colors, so like red, pink, brown, pretty much every other color that's not like a nude or white shade, it sort of bleeds out. So you'll kind of see me trying to clean up the edges of where the paint bled out, which is another downfall to it. Again, I don't really mind because it's just so much easier to see what you're working with when you're working in color versus if you're working in a clear gel. Sometimes the lighting that you're working with, it sort of throws it off, and you may think that, oh, it's smooth, everything looks good, and then you cure it and you go to put gel polish over it, and then you're like, damn, this part's lumpy. So that is another reason why I do like working with something like this instead of using clear 3D gel. But again, there's just pros and cons to whatever you decide to do. Once her face was done, I started working on the heart. Now, one of the things that I normally just do is I just put like a blob of the gel wherever I want it to go, and then I start cutting off the edges that I don't want. I have found that to be just a little bit easier. I know that you can start like pre-shaping it on this little piece of paper that I have down on my table in the back. However, if I were to do it that way, then the heart would just be completely flat. And I want the heart to actually mold with the curve of the nail, so that's why I don't do it that way. Another little tip that I want to mention whenever you're creating characters is to pay attention how the picture or the character is leveled in a certain order. What I mean by that is the picture that I was looking at, you could tell that Hello Kitty was holding this heart, and the heart sort of came up over her chin. So that's why I decided to put the face down first, because that way it looks more 3D, like in the order that it's supposed to. Had I put the heart down first, that probably would have been easier, but then the layout and the order would have just looked weird. So little tip to pay attention to if you're going to start creating 3D characters. Right here, what I'm doing is just taking some liner gel to create these tiny little details like her nose, her little blush, and her eyes. But guys, now that I'm recording this, I just realized I forgot her whiskers. Poor Hello Kitty doesn't have no whiskers. Oh, so I'm kind of bummed out about that because in my sketch, I literally had the whiskers planned. But towards the end of creating this set, I was just sort of all over the place, and that usually tends to happen to me when I'm creating these sets and they take hours long. So I did forget that, but she still came out cute. It's okay. So right here, what I'm doing is just finishing up the tiny little details for my Hello Kitty. Like I said, I forgot her whiskers. So now that I noticed that, I'm a little bit bummed out about that, but that's okay. She's still cute. She's still cute. That's what matters. So next thing that I do is I take some white liner gel and I just start adding little details over the 3D art. So I'm going to do like white little swooshes on all of my hearts and add some white details to my bows as well. The very last thing that I did to finish up this look is I added the white lines to my three little hearts on my thumb. I wanted them to look like heart balloons, so that's the vibe that I was going for. And then after that, I take some glitter liner gel from Beetles and I start adding pink little glitter dots all over my thumb and to the French on my index finger. Alright, you guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking around with me for this really long nail tutorial, and I hope you guys enjoy your Valentine's Day, and I'll see you in the next video.